Okay. Thank you, everyone, to be here. Thank you very much, Josh and Jeff, to be here with me, with the Agile the Latin American community. This is most of the people I know. We are very happy. My name is Federico. For the ones who don't know me, I'm one of the partners at 10 Pines. And I also became a certified trainer with Sense and Respond. So I'm really, really happy to be here with these two thought leaders, with Josh and with Jeff. I'm not sure if Jeff is having trouble, right? Right now with Josh and now with Jeff. Thank you very much to be here, sharing this moment with us. Hi Jeff, we were starting. Sorry, I didn't see you when we just started. Are you okay?
It's probably going to be an echo. I'll try to figure it out, but don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Okay. Well, I was just saying that I really, really appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here to join us, the Latin American product and Agile community. And I will let you introduce yourselves if you're okay with it.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Jeff Gothelf. I've been a designer, a product manager, a team leader, an entrepreneur. In the last 15 years, I've been working closely with Josh Seiden on all things customer-centric design, customer-centric product management, customer-centric leadership, and most recently, customer-centric goal setting. And we've actually started talking a lot about storytelling lately as well. And that has been and that work has turned into speaking, teaching, writing, and most recently, Josh and I, in coaching as well. Josh and I have launched an organization called Sense and Respond Learning, which is a training and content company focused on those topics. I'm based in Barcelona, and it's nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. That's nice. Thank you very much to be here, Jeff. Josh, do you want to present yourself?
Sure. So Jeff and I met in New York more than 15 years ago, and we've been working together since 2011. We share similar backgrounds, similar interests in design and in product management and in helping teams be more strategic and more customer centric. When I'm not doing all of that, I'm a photographer and a writer, and I make sourdough bread.
That is great. I have a few questions. It's gonna be like a talk and an interview. I had a few questions, but I know most of the people here are also product and agile experts. So I will open the Q&A section. So in case you have questions, you can post them there. There's also a voting. I saw a voting. So if you have a similar question, you can vote. I will prioritize based on the voting. So you can go ahead and and ask questions there on the question and answers, and I will leave time to read them. I wanted to start about or you telling me your history. I know there were times where you didn't work that way, and you started realizing of things that you wanted to change, that you wanted to work differently. So basically, I wanted to talk about that, about your a brief summary of how you got here and the things that you learned.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you that when I first started my career in design, I worked for a design agency in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and this was in the 90s. And at that point, no one was really doing design with any serious intention in software. In fact, one of my first clients was a division of IBM, the mini computer division of IBM. And the woman who ran that was an engineer. And she said to us after we had presented our work to her, she said to us, it's all very well and good, she said, but I don't believe designers have any place in the world of software. I believe engineers should be doing all of the design. And my boss at the time was a guy, you may have read his books. His name was Alan Cooper. And Alan said, he stood up. He was very offended because it's a pretty nasty thing to say to a room full of designers who've flown across the country to work for your company. And he said, Madam, which is a bad way to start. He said, Madam, I have dedicated my career to proving you wrong. So we got ourselves fired. But that was the battle. In the 90s, the battle was, how do we do design in the context of software when the engineers believe we don't belong? And so when I first was reading about Agile, and this was kind of before, I guess they were calling it Agile, I was reading about extreme programming. One of the enemies was big design up front. That was my business. I was literally in the business of doing big design up front. And so I thought that the people in the Agile world were insane. And they were the same enemy that I just faced at IBM. And it took me a long time to understand what they were trying to do. It took me another 10 years to figure out what Agile was really trying to do. And the sort of crystallizing moment, and I'm sorry I'm telling a long story, but it includes the origin story of how I met Jeff. So was an organization that a friend of ours, a friend named Lane Goldstone, organized a group of Agile people and a group of design people to come together in a group that eventually became called Balanced Team. And she said her mission was, we share the same values. We want to make great technology products, but we're going at it in different ways. What do we have in common? And we started meeting together with these people. And what we realized was that this kind of idea of an enemy, design is the enemy or engineering is the enemy, that was at least half of the problem. And the question was, how do we work together in these methods? And so, and in that group, one of the people who got pulled into that group was Jeff. And by that time I was working on Wall Street. I'd moved back to New York City. Jeff was working at a company called The Ladders. He can tell you about his experience there. And we discovered we were working on similar problems, which was I ran a design team, he ran a design team. We had engineering colleagues who believed in Agile. And we were trying to figure out how to make it work, right? And that's really sort of the start of, is from trying to figure out how to make it work that the work that became Lean UX showed up in the world. I'll stop talking for a while and maybe let Jeff pick up the story.
What's interesting is I fell into design, web design, digital design unexpectedly. It wasn't what I studied in school, and it wasn't a career direction for me. I was a touring musician, and not a successful one. And so as the big the first .com boom was happening, and my bands were failing, I was like, okay, I got to get in on this. And I got in on it. I got in web design initially, and then information architecture and UX design, UI design, and that kind of thing. And I found myself about 10 years into my career, maybe it was a little less at that point, making documents, just big, thick documents, right? Design requirements documents, DRDs, all day long, making these stupid documents that defined the corner radius, and in extreme detail, everything, and what I learned very quickly is that I would go through a lot of effort to generate this output. And on a good day, 50% of that work got implemented. That was a good day, which meant that on a good day, half of my work was being thrown away. And I said to myself, if this is how the rest of this career is going, I'm going to figure out something else. I'm going back to the piano. We'll figure something other than this, because it was such a colossal waste of my time and frankly, everybody else's time. And one of the things that kind of got me noticed was I wrote an article, 2011, I think is when it came out, almost 15 years ago now, called Getting Out of the Deliverables Business. And that was kind of my, like, we're going to break free of the tyranny of these documents, because otherwise, like, we're not designing. Yeah, sure. Like, we design for like 10 or 20% of the time, and then 80% of the time we're documenting it. There has to be a better way. And that's when a lot of this balanced team stuff was picking up, and lean startup was picking up. There's a lot of interesting conversations that started in the 2010s, especially in New York, where we were, San Francisco, et cetera. And so that's how we were working back then. Just big old documents. I'm glad we don't do that as much anymore.
Well, 50%, it's a lot of work that it was useful. But yeah, I have another question, and have you seen successful transformations of teams, feature teams, or teams that work that way, to teams that work product teams, teams that focus on outcomes and the customer and things like that? Have you seen transformation, and what are the key things of those teams that have made the transformations, in your opinion?
So the short answer is yes. I have seen this. I've seen it again and again and again. It would be, 20 years of a lot of frustration if all of this was for nothing. So glad. The short look, yes, of course we've seen teams. I've seen teams that have been successful at this. What works? What makes this happen? What works is leadership that believes in it more than anything. It's an easy conversation with the product teams themselves, right? It's easy, right? Do you want to just crank stuff out, or do you want to actually make something valuable? And look, I'm not going to tell you that I've met developers. It's usually developers who say, look, all I want to do is put my headphones on and code. That's it. You tell me what to build. I trust you. I trust my product owner, my product manager, right? I will do whatever they say, and that's fine. And in those situations, you have to deal with those personalities because they don't fit. Or maybe there's a better fit for them somewhere else in the organization, but they don't fit on these teams. But generally speaking, the majority of the product development team wants to work this way. The conversation is not difficult for those people. It's the leadership. And where this has been successful, there has been an invested leader. And when I say invested, I mean three things. Number one, they put money into this transformation. That's number one. Number two, they put their reputation into this transformation, right? And then number three, they support the transformation. So whatever the team needs, hey, we need new software. Hey, we need to talk to customers. Hey, I need you to go talk to sales because they're stopping me from getting any customer access, right? That's when this works. When you have a leader who believes in this and is willing to invest in this kind of transformation. That's been the greatest indicator of success. Yes, you can find scrappy teams who are doing this inside an organization that does not work this way. But the biggest successes are with when there's an executive or a leader that believes in it.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. The whole organization needs to believe in this way of working. Otherwise, Josh, do you wanna add something?
No, I would just say that sort of this is a continuous no, I said, and then now I'm adding something. So yes, I guess I have something to add. This pattern, right? Like when you're transforming, there are things that individual contributors can do. They should do them. There are things that teams can do. They should do them. But then there's things that are outside of their control. And that's what Jeff, right? Which is how do you get the organization to support these things? Like simple things like simple but incredibly powerful in terms of constraints, right? As a leader, am I giving my team a problem to solve? Or am I giving my team a deliverable? Right? Oh, well, as a leader, I have no choice. I have to give them a deliverable because I have a contract and blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, it's the leader who ultimately makes it possible for teams to transform deeply. And so they're the ones who have to be they have to understand the pieces that they are enabling or not.
Right. Yeah, what I see now, after I read your books, I started realizing when I am at the companies, I wonder if that's the same for the other people here, that I see that the leadership has their KPIs, they have their objectives, but then the rest of the leadership, when it goes down, it comes down in the form of initiatives, right? All the middle management and all the leaders, they tell the teams, we need to do this, we need to do this feature, we need to do this functionality. I wonder if there's a way to start changing that and to start giving the teams problems and objectives in another way, and changing that mindset that I think that most of the companies that I see have. Do you have a?
Yeah, I mean, on a small scale, the way to do it is as a team to lean into outcomes, right? And so what that means is outcomes are a behavior change that we're trying to create, right? For the user, for the customer, something like that. And so when at the team level, if you're handed a deliverable, you have to go build this thing. Like, okay, can we talk about this in terms of the outcomes? Because right, if you've ever been handed a spec, chances are there's more work to do than you can do. So you're going to have to manage the scope of that request. So what should I build first? What's the most important feature? And so having the conversation about outcomes will help guide the scope conversations. And hopefully that'll start to, offer leadership some guidance as to how they should be structuring the work. So that's on an individual team level, it's about pushing towards outcomes. And even at an individual leader level, it's about pushing to outcomes. At an organizational level, the way you systematize it is OKRs. OKRs are the organizational way to implement outcomes. And so, okay, well, we have this strategy. What are we going to do to implement this strategy? Well, here are the problems that we need to solve. And an organization that articulates OKRs is articulating outcomes, because the key results are outcomes. And you build this system in the organization that hopefully can drive that change. So I think those are the sort of, depending on where you sit in the organization, those are the tools.
That's great. Jeff, you want to add something, or?
I just had one quick thing. I think that the conversation that Josh described is the right one, but it's a difficult one for a lot of organizations to have, because the result isn't something tangible. right? So it's a lot easier to tell your boss, right? Well, what are you working on? Well, I'm building this thing, whatever that thing is, happens to be in my hand. Rather than I'm going to help people, connect to electricity more successfully, right, or something along those lines. So I think the mindset shift to get that conversation to happen is when your boss says, "Hey, go build me a thing." The conversation is, "Okay, boss, we'll build it. How will we know that we've done a good job other than delivering it, right? What are we looking for to tell us that we designed it well and we built it well and we marketed it well, right?" And really just asking those questions to introduce the concept. So you're not asking them to change anything specifically. You're just saying, "Look, I'd love to know from your perspective, other than shipping it on time and that it does what we said it should do, what does success look like?" And having that outcomes conversation, which eventually leads to everything that Josh talked about.
Right. But that perhaps that's not within their control, and as they feel it's more within the control, the functionality, that exact same thing.
It's true.
Yeah. I will read. There are some questions, so I will go ahead and read some of them from Dami. Congratulations, Dami, for your new book on agile coaching, by the way. Dami, the question is, what are your latest learnings and current developments?
Well, the thing that I've been really interested in over the last year or so, and we've been producing a class around this and some master classes, and I did a presentation about this in London last week, is storytelling. Because we work with a lot of people in large companies, and we find that these are smart people who know their job, they know the work, they do good work, and they are terrible at explaining what they're doing or why they're doing it. And because they're terrible at explaining themselves, they are less successful. And so one of the things that I feel passionately about is helping folks tell a better story. And it's interesting because storytelling may sound like something, like something you tell your children before bed or a good book that you read. But if you can take a complicated technical system that you're delivering and tell a compelling story about it, you're going to drive a lot more support and insight and effort into the work. And ultimately, the work will be more successful and you personally be more successful. And so that's been a big part, is how do you take the basic principles of good storytelling and apply them in a workplace context so that the work is more successful and that the team is more successful and that you are personally more successful. And that's been a lot of what we're doing, and really trying to keep it simple. Really, it's design. It's a design exercise, right? Who are you speaking to, right? Who's the persona that you're speaking to? What do they care about? How can you craft a story that makes it clear to that person why they should listen to you, right? And then how do you get the most important points across as effectively as possible? To me, like, that sounds basic, right? It sounds so easy. 95% of the corporate presentations that I see don't have that. They're terrible. So that's a big part of what I'm seeing and learning and working on these days.
Yeah. I think that it's related with the question that Martin did. Well, let me know if it is. I see it very, very related. Martin asked, how do you manage motivation and alignment in big teams to work around problems instead of deliverables? I see it very related, right? Because if they tell you the story in a way that you believe, you understand the whole story, you understand what you're trying to get at, the organization, the strategy. It's a different thing that if you receive a presentation that you don't understand, right? But
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? If you ask me what I'm doing, and I say, look, I'm connecting this payment system to that payment rail to this backend verification security module. Okay. Versus, hey, what are you working on? I'm making it. I'm enabling small and micro merchants in low bandwidth areas to take digital payments. Right? Both things are true. Right? One is far more compelling than the other. Right? It's how you tell the story. Look, if you want to have a technical conversation with a technical audience about that side of the work, terrific. But first, start with the goal, right? We're helping these folks take payments where there is no internet. Okay, cool. How are we doing it? Well, this system to that system to this thing, and then we do it, right?
yeah, absolutely. Josh, what are you working on? Your latest learnings?
He does whatever I tell him to do.
Oh, that's good.
I've learned a 1,000 ways to say no to Jeff. So what's been super interesting for us, Jeff and I opened a studio in together with another partner in 2011. And we ran that studio until the end of 2015 when we sold it. And at that point, we sort of both set up shop as solo practitioners, and we collaborated on a lot of work. We wrote a bunch of books together, and at some point, a few years after that, we started a business together. But it was really just the two of us, kind of delivering work. We added a good person to help us, but about a year ago, we decided we had an idea that we could grow this business. And so we sort of went from helping clients solve their problems to, eating our own dog food and building our own business. And it's hard. Like, this work that we do is hard, and I think it's easy as a consultant to get frustrated with your clients, right? Like, you see the answer really clearly in your head, but the work is also really emotional, right? Like, your emotions get caught up in your work, and as an entrepreneur running a small business, a lot of your identity is tied up in that work. And so for me, it's been really kind of an amazing experience to, be back in it, after sort of a decade of not really trying to build a business, but just sort of doing work, to really be trying to build a business. And I think that's it's hard, but it's also super exciting.
Yeah. I know it is. Absolutely. So I have another question here from Pablo. Hi, Pablo, from Tucumán, an Agilist friend for a lot of time. The question from Pablo is, what other alignment accelerators would you suggest considering?
Well, I think, we just finished a webinar earlier today that was all about using the Lean Product Canvas, which is a tool that we've developed and refined over the years, to help teams get aligned around delivering customer value when they are facing uncertainty, right? So what's the problem? What does success look like? Who's the user? What solution? What are the and what are the risks, and how do we test those risks? And I think, like, you know, the experience of using a tool like that, and there are a lot of canvases out there, and you know, that we like ours for this purpose, but there are other good canvases out there for related purposes. But just that process of sort of taking the time, taking an hour, it's so crazy how rare it is that we sit down with our colleagues and say, like, what are we doing here? Let's just talk through this methodically. The canvas is a great way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, but the canvas it's a good set of tools because it captures kind of the key questions for most initiatives, right? What's the problem? What's this? How do we measure success? Who's it for? What are the risks? How are we going to test those risks? Those are like fundamental questions. And so I think that's a really valuable kind of way of thinking about creating alignment. You know, that the old agile thing, right? Conversation, confirmation, card, right? You have a conversation about the problem, you agree on the solution, you write it on a card to represent the what you've just talked about. And this is sort of just a slightly bigger version of that.
Yeah, I think it's bigger because most of the agile Scrum, when you start with the problem, it's already decided on the business side, and sometimes on the design. I felt a lot of time that I was starting too late to try to understand the problem when the solution has already been designed. So yeah, absolutely. That and being part of the problem creates that alignment. I think that be part of the whole process of building something. So I will go ahead and read another question from Naila. Naila from 10 Pines now. What do you think about the new roles some companies are now recruiting for called product engineer? Shouldn't a software engineer already have a product skills since the role is more than just being a developer? Have you heard about that role? Do you have
I haven't heard of this. Is this just an attempt to hire less people?
Sorry, it cut a little bit, Jeff.
Oh, sorry, I haven't heard of this role. What's the idea here, that we combine product managers and engineers into one role?
I have my guess. We talked the other day with Naila. Naila, you can go ahead and answer.
Yes, actually, yes, I asked just in case you know about the role, because I saw some posts from some companies asking for that role, and that was, I don't know, something new. I'm not sure if this role is a kind of software engineer who knows about the product role,
Right.
or what about this? Just I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I understand that it's a software developer that knows how to work under the product operating model, and that follows the process as well, that it's involved in understanding the users, the problems, understands about customer centricity, about discovery. This is something perhaps it's difficult for developers to understand what is discovery and being involved, and perhaps it helps having software engineers that are experts on all those things. Experts, no, that know, perhaps.
I mean, I'm skeptical of roles that are design that collapse the distinction between design and engineering. I'm happy to have designing and engineering collaborating tightly. But I think at some point, you're going to have to choose which master you serve. And as the engineer responsible for building the product, your master is going to be getting the system built. And so your design decisions are going to be influenced by the construction process. And this is the second time I've name-checked Alan Cooper today. But Alan described this problem as a conflict between the user's mental model and the software implementation model. And it's really hard if you're responsible for the implementation to not be thinking in terms of the structures of the implementation model, right? That's your master. At the end of the day, doesn't matter how much time you spend over here, or you could be a great designer, right? But if this is also your job, this job wins. So I love having people who are multi-skilled on the team. Some of the best designers I've worked with were people who were, you know, really fluent in writing software and who could collaborate with engineers. But I think you also have to be responsible on the team for, I think this is sort of a separation of concerns as they talk about in engineering, you know, and I think that that's an important idea. So.
Okay. Thank you. Caro has another question, and I have the last one. If you have a few more minutes, Jeff, Josh, is that
We
okay?
have
More
we have
questions?
4 more minutes because we
You
have
have
one
4
more
more
call.
minutes?
And
Okay,
we have
okay.
another call at the top of the hour, and then we have
Okay.
to
No,
prep
no
for that.
worries. We can end then with Caro's question. The other question was about the IA. You're talking all the time. I have my question about what your thoughts, but let's go with Caro's, which is what cultural mistakes do we often repeat when trying to implement Lean UX and OKRs in traditional organizations?
I think the biggest mistakes that organizations make is they don't consider the incentives, how we structure the incentives, right? So they'll say, okay, good, we like this new idea. Let's implement it. Let's put in Lean UX. Let's put in OKRs. But the rewards, the promotions, the celebrations, the paychecks go to the people who ship products. Right? And if that's what gets me paid, if that's what gets me promoted, then I'm going to focus on shipping product rather than achieving an outcome or doing more customer-centric work. That's the biggest obstacle to this succeeding globally. I mean, company-wide, is this idea of like, look, we'd love to work this way, right? We're going to change the goals, but the rewards are still tied to the old way of working. And that's, to me, it's a really difficult obstacle to overcome. Because again, I think it's really difficult for people to think about, well, I'm going to give you money and you're going to give me a thing in return, right? That concept seems to be really ingrained in human culture, right? Rather than I'm going to give you money and you're going to make things better, right? Some people can understand that, but I think for a lot of folks, it's much easier to say, oh, you made this thing? Okay, that's worth this reward. And it's an easier and more familiar conversation.
Makes sense. Josh, what do you think? Do you have any?
I'm going to let Jeff's answer stand.
Okay, that's great. All right, well, we are in time. Thank you very much again, Jeff, Josh, to be here, and thank you everyone that attended that are here with us, sharing this moment.
Thank you for having us. It was really nice to see everybody, and Fede, it's nice to see you as well.
Yeah,
and
nice to see
look
you.
forward to seeing you back in Barcelona next time you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't be able to attend in October, but I hope to be there soon.
Okay, man. We'll see you soon.
I will send the recordings, and yeah, bye. Have a good afternoon. Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.